The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to Alarm Corp's webinar for today. My name's Jeff Rushton from Alarm Corp. Today's webinar is on the new range of Aratec detectors. Just before we get started, just to get you familiar with the GoToWebinar software, you'll notice that you are all in listen-only mode. Your microphone has been muted, and that's the way that it will remain for the remainder of this session. If you have any questions, please feel free at any time to write them in the question pane down at the bottom, and at the end of this session I'll answer any questions that you have. Just before we get started, I might get you to click on your hand icon just to see that you can hear and see the screen that that is up here at the moment. Okay, excellent. You can lower those hands now and we'll get started. As of today, and including the new detectors, the current range of Aratec detectors is listed on this screen. You'll notice that under the single PIR that all of the, or nearly all of the EV products, the EV100, the EV1012, the EV1012AM, EV1116 and the 116AM are actually all relatively new products as well. The EV525 and 669 and the 565 have been around for a number of years. For the purpose of our webinar today, we'll be concentrating on the Vector series of PIRs. The VE1012 is a 12 metre PIR. The 1012AM is an anti-mask version of that detector. The 1016 is a 16 metre PIR, and the AM version, again, the anti-mask version of that same detector. The VE1120 is a 20 metre PIR, and the 1120AM again is the anti-mask version of that particular sensor. There's also a VE735 that has got a 60 metre range, and also there's a anti-mask version of that product also. Aratec have a range of dual sensors, whether they're dual PIR and microwave or dual PIR and ultrasonic detectors as well. Again, the Vector series is a new range for us. It has quite literally just been released in the last, I suppose, few weeks, and that will be our discussion point for today's webinar. So we'll just have a look at these products. So they're all the Vector technology motion sensors, and nearly all of them are in the VE1000 series or the VE1100 series detector. Maybe a little bit of history. This is for all detectors, but in particular it relates to the technology that Aratec has used up to today in its products. Back in the 80s, mirror optics was I suppose relatively new, and Aratec decided that they would have they would call that technology a 2D, and basically it was derived by either the shape of the object or the speed of the object in order to enable detection. In the 90s, they added a terminology that they called gliding focus, multi-curtain, which basically now allowed for the detector to see the size of an object. In 2004, it turned into a high-density mirror optic lens. which now, because of the higher density, or I suppose the higher resolution of the sensor, it was now could accurately determine the duration of an event, and hence the term 4D has been around on their detectors now for quite a number of years. In line with that, they've decided to call this range 5D technology. They've added an additional means of processing a signal from the PIR, and as you can see there, it talks about environment, and we'll see how, I suppose technically, how that allows this range of products to compete very head-on with any dual technology sensor, and have improvements in all areas of detection and false alarm immunity. And we'll talk about how we see this as the first foolproof sensor. So let's look at three criteria, I guess. Is the optics, to give a denser coverage or a higher resolution of coverage, what the foolproof design means, and how much easier it is to install as well. The optics, these are patented terms by Aratec. 3-grid optic for high sensitivity. We'll see how that works in a sec. All of these detectors use a curtain beam or curtain coverage as opposed to a standard beam coverage, and you'll see how much more effective that is in false alarm immunity as well as coverage. The orthogonal projection, we'll talk about that in the upcoming slides, and the vector pyro that they have now enables them to determine the direction of motion across the path of the detector as well. The optics that are exhibited in these detectors in the 1000 series, they call it a high density optics with their glide and step focus, and 9 curtains in a range of either 12 or 16 meters. For the VE 1100 series, you see they've added 2 additional curtain lenses and also increased it up to a 20-meter range. An important point here is the detection through cloaks and umbrellas. The fact that a passive infrared sensor works on a change in infrared energy means that a simple way to defeat them is to block that infrared energy from you to the detector. That may mean, in this case, an umbrella. If you're behind an umbrella, it won't pick you up. If you change your clothes or go behind a screen, it also will eliminate you from being picked up. These detectors will pick you up through any cloaks that the intruder will use, or of course umbrellas in this particular case. The argument of a beam versus a curtain, typically all detectors use a beam technology, and that was used back, whether it be on the old Fresnel lens detectors that used a plastic lens. There's still many detectors available today that use that. The same with mirror optics. The majority of manufacturers would use a beam. Aratec, as far as I'm aware, are the only company that have detectors that use their curtain detection in order to give a wide angle coverage, and we'll see in the upcoming slides how that is a distinct advantage. And it's a distinct advantage in many ways. It increases the sensitivity, it increases the resolution and the detection coverage. It's as I've got here on the slide, more security and technologically complex to the existing units and give a much better result. With the Vector Pyro, we can see that typically, we can see all of the factors here that we'll talk about on the next 4 slides that talk about multidimensional signals, detection coverage, spatial discrimination, and time discrimination. I suppose a key take home on this is it has twice the number of verification points combined with the channel shift in time proves that the IR source was actually in motion. So for the first time, a detector can now determine whether that source is actually moving or stationary. Most pyros in most PIRs have got a couple of elements. Sophisticated PIRs will have more than one. In the case of the VE series, it has 4, and as you can see, they are all vertical curtains and listed by the diagram on the left-hand side. A typical detector looks like the coverage pattern on the right-hand side. The difference in the structure of these elements affects the performance of the motion detector in 3 ways. And the 3 ways being the detection coverage. The Vector Pyros add sensitive elements which preserve the full interaction between the radiated IR energy and the element area. So we get maximum signal strength. If we have a look at a standard PIR, by dividing the area of the sensitive element into separate elements, the infrared energy per element is also divided. So what happens is the signal to noise ratio actually decreases. So it makes it harder to determine an intruder or noise. So the more elements or more elements are required to maintain the reliability as to whether it's an alarm or a false alarm. With the spatial discrimination, when we're looking at factors which affect the detection, so in this example we've got light or the sun, you can see that the Vector pyros spatially separate the sensitive elements of the pyro, reducing the probability of a false alarm because the alarm source has to appear in both channels in the same manner and to produce identical signals, which it won't in this case. When the elements are interleaved, like a standard detector, a false alarm source is always visible in both channels, or if there's more channels, in all of the channels simultaneously. So therefore it's much harder for the detector to determine whether that is a false alarm or a genuine intruder. As well as time discrimination. Very important now that with the Vector pyros, the intruder interaction with the element surface at 4 points in time instead of 2. So now, and we'll see again in probably the next slide, that on the next couple of slides, that we can now determine the direction of movement as to which of these elements go into alarm first. And we know it's in motion, so hence it's not likely to be a heater or the sun or any other element that can cause a problem. So false alarm sources, including stationary thermal sources, can never generate the unique phase relationship between the elements of a Vector multi-element pyro, and therefore is much easier to eliminate and discard. The foolproof signal processing. How does this work? Let's look at the various sources that potentially affect a detector. We've got a human. I don't know how well you can see that graph at the bottom, but with the technology that these sensors have, that pattern generates a human walking from left to right. If it was a light source, generates a totally different pattern. Air turbulence, you can see again, doesn't relate anything to that of the person. A heater, again, totally different to the other three. And RF noise, also totally different to that of a person using this spatial and time processing. So most definitely the different sources, different patterns, there's a clear distinction. Therefore, we can happily eliminate these other causes of potential alarms and concentrate solely on the pattern for a human. With their V2E signal processing that they've called it, you can actually see that with the signal that we can now determine motion, whether it's left to right or right to left across the face of the detector. So in summary, the different IR sources generate different signal patterns. We can control the nuisance signals by analysing the patterns. And the vector signal processing discriminates. So we're looking at motion events, crosswalks, undercrawl, intermittent walks. We can pick those up. All non-motion events, air turbulence, white noise, RF, we can eliminate from the detection. Why is this easy to install? All of these sensors have got what we call a autofocus. And basically what that means in a nutshell is it gives constant sensitivity across its range. That is, whether you are close to the detector or at its maximum range. The detector will see you as a human a metre in front of the detector as it would 20 metres away. All the detectors also have undercrawl detection, so that for the entire range of the sensor, from where the detector is located to its maximum range, there is full coverage. There are no dead spots on any of these products. Also, with this automatic focus, even in very small rooms, there is no need to either change the detector or adjust the sensitivity to allow for a very small room. So it basically means these detectors can go up on the wall and have no adjustment controls on them for height or angle or anything like that. You mount them at the required mounting height and test them. That's all you need to do. All of these sensors, all of the detectors in the VE range use very little power. Typically from about 1.2 to 4.4 milliamps, which is potentially up to about 4 times less than an equivalent Dualtech PIR and microwave unit. So hence, doesn't require as large a power supply, can require a smaller battery, and still provide the backup time provided with these products. As I said, the freedom of installation here, the detector will now tolerate wall deviations. If you walk directly under it, there is a detection zone. It has autofocus, plug-in electronics. There is nothing the installer needs to do other than mount it on the wall. Again, as I said, there are no adjustments depending on the mounting height. There's no adjustments depending on the angle of the wall. Mount it on the wall, it will detect under the detector and out to its maximum range and give a constant detection pattern. Let's compare the Vector series with a dual technology sensor. The Vector being a PIR only, so it will only detect within the room. A dual technology sensor, the microwave, will actually detect beyond the walls of the room. With the Vector series, it will only detect moving infrared objects. A dual technology sensor will pick up any object that's moving, regardless of whether it's exhibiting infrared energy or not. And the Vector series will only detect the outside of an object, and we'll explain this in a sec, where a dual technology sensor will detect movement within inside an object. So we've got here areas with objects that generate IR energy and can be susceptible to movement. Billboards, for example, in a shopping mall, a dual technology sensor would be affected by it. Areas with objects that contain moving parts, a water pipe with water in it, the microwave component of a dual technology sensor will pick up that and generate an alarm. And areas with large window panes and nearby traffic, again, the microwaves will see beyond that window pane. The PIR will stop at the window pane directly. So this product, we believe, is very much a best in its class with its design and the technology that it's using. It was designed in the Netherlands. These guys, as everyone would appreciate, have had many years experience with making passive infrared sensors. They all come with a 5-year warranty, and there are stacks of approvals. We'll go through some of the approvals for here in the upcoming slides. Packaging, all of the products come in a retail packaging. No big deal, I guess, except that every product is packed in its own box, and ideal for display on a shop front or for taking out on site. They're all packed with the instructions for each detector in them. If we just go back and have a quick look at this product range, again, we've basically covered the Vector PIR series. When it comes to approvals, though, UTC Fire and Security, which is the manufacturer of all of the Aerotech sensors, have gone through the process of having every one of these detectors SCEC approved. A number of these sensors already are. The EV1012 is approved to level 1. The AM version to security level 2. The EV1116 is to security level 1, and the AM version to security level 2. The 525, the 669, and the 565 are also approved products. The entire Vector series are going through approval now. So we expect to see very shortly that all of those detectors will be SCEC approved, and more likely to security level 2 than anything else. The same with all of their dual detectors. A number of those have already got approval. The ones that don't are going through approval as we speak. So by far, there'll be about 3 or 4 times as many Aerotech detectors on the approved SCEC list than any other manufacturer's product that we're certainly aware of. All of these products are currently available, and pricing also is available. I'll put up some contact details shortly, and if you'd like those prices, you can send through a request and we'll get those out to you. If you'd like to know more on any of these products, or certainly anything else that Alarm Corp sells, our website is a great source of a resource at alarmcorp.com.au. You can also register online and have full access to our e-commerce platform. If you have any other questions that you would like answered by a staff member, they can be directed to myself. My email address is jmr@alarmcorp.com.au, or Steve Dinger for Victoria and South Australia and WA at spd@alarmcorp.com.au. We have a range of webinars that we're holding for the remainder of the year for our intrusion products. They're currently going up to the middle of the year, and I'll release a schedule for the remainder of the year after that. Next month, we'll be talking about our Salto offline access control system, and then in the following month, talk about our perimeter security options that we have that are available through Alarm Corp. There's also a range of CCTV webinars, again, that are held every month also. The next one is on fibre optics on the 11th of May. Then after that, a DVR update on our range of Extralis products, which is the V3100. And as you can see, throughout the remainder of the year for other product lines. If you would like to have this schedule sent to you, please feel free to send me an email and I can forward that on. All of these will go out as an email before the event to give you time to register if you'd like to partake in any of these webinars that are coming up. We have until the end of June a number of specials on, in fact, every Aratec sensor, but I've listed some here, and all of the Centrol read switches. I haven't put pricing on this just in case that there are some end users listening in. If you would like all of our specials, and trust me, all of these specials on these Aratec detectors, and in fact any Centrol switch, but we have extra special discounts on the 1078 and the 1078C switches through to the end of June, available in any quantities. We accept orders from 1 up. Please feel free to email me and I will forward those special prices to you. They are significant discounts off both ranges of products up until the end of the year. We really do want to promote these new VE series detectors, and the best way to do that is to try and get as many out in the field as possible in that time. So I'd like to thank you for your time here today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I'll leave these contact details up on the screen for a little while. And if you'd like to hang around, if I do get some questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay. A question here says, I've noticed that some of your detectors aren't in the list. They've got here the EV425P and the EV635 in particular. Are these still available? We're bringing on any new line of detectors. Obviously there's a phase out of the old units. I'll just see if I can bring up a list of the detectors and their replacements that shows the EV425P has now been superseded with the EV1116. That has got a SCEC approved level of secure area. We can see that the 635 has also been superseded. The 645 is still available. The 669 is all of these are SCEC approved currently detectors. The DD475 is not going anywhere. The EV series obviously is the ones that are replacing, in this case the EV125, 425, and the new sensors have a security level of 2. I think the slide also has the other detectors. So all of the VE series that we've discussed today are pending SCEC approval. So they will be available hopefully in the next few months as a SCEC approved product. There's another question here. As a consultant, I've always specified Aratec detectors. It's good to see further advancement. Okay, a comment to see further advancement with the range. I've been in security all of my life, and detectors are a relatively boring subject and don't generally keep pace with other products in the security industry. Once there's a detector around, it seems to be around for 10 or more years. This has certainly been the case with the majority of the Aratec sensors. Those products are very well proven and have been out in the field for 6, 7 or more years. So it's good to see that they've brought out basically 2 new ranges of sensors in the last 12 months to include new technology to improve whether it be their design or their false alarm immunity. So it's a very positive step from Aratec to have, what equates to about 15 new products out in the field. Is there any other questions on this? Okay, if not, I'd like to thank you for your time. I hope this has been of some benefit. If you would like any further information, then please feel free to email me directly or Steve. And I certainly wish everyone here a happy and safe Easter. And thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.